But when you start looking at this, some areas may surprise you that, hey, I didn't realize it was that busy Wednesday afternoon. Why Wednesday afternoon? Or, and then you start looking and find out that there's the same 10 people all show up and do their laundry at the same time because that's when they normally do it together. In other ways, it helps you say, okay, I'm really busy at this time. How can I move some customers to another part of the day?
Are you a current laundromat owner looking to get into the business? Looking for everything you need to know when it comes to starting your business, picking the right location, repair tips, marketing your business, and so much more? Then you come to the right place. Welcome to Laundromat How To, the podcast with your host, Ken Barrett.
Tell me a little bit about what your challenges are from a laundromat perspective, what you're trying to accomplish.
We'll start off with a little background. I'm Ken Barrett. A lot of the guys seeing the video are going to know that. Today we're talking with Alert Labs. If you want to give yourself a little bit of a quick background as what you do there and just your overall product, and then we'll kind of work into a few scenarios on how we can fix some things.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Doug MacMillan. I am a sales consultant with Alert Labs, and we work with all types of assets and buildings that are looking to protect those assets, whether it's from water leaks or also manage consumption. So for instance, we work with a lot of buildings and a lot of different types of businesses that are trying to reduce their water consumption, reduce their water budgets. And so we give them some visibility, get visibility into what their consumption is as well. So we're in over 10,000 buildings across the US and Canada.
Laundromats, for the most part, we just resell utilities and rent equipment. That's the basis of it. So the more efficient we can be with the utilities, then the higher margins we have on it, basically. Even 1 or 2% on any of the main utilities makes a big difference to our stores and our growth, our net income. I've been getting emails from you guys for quite a while. I kind of looked at some of the stuff. In my case, I've got 4 stores on one water system and another store that's not on that system. The one system they actually put in a monitoring system, and then they charge me so much a month, which I know that you don't want to hear that right now. You want to put it on all my stores. Up till that point, I'm kind of like, okay, whatever, we're using water, not a big deal. When they put it in, one of the older stores I'd bought detected a leak right away. I guess a similar system one they're using is utility based. What you've got is something that we can put in ourselves and monitor ourselves. It detected a leak right away. Because I had bought the store about 4 years before, the water bill never changed. It's been leaking for who knows how long. We got the notice right away. We put it in. We went in, replaced the entire main water line, and my water bill dropped 30 or 40%. And the ground was never wet. It was just one of those that's dug a hole so deep the water was gone. So the other store I have, that water utility has no intention of putting this system in. Seeing what that did at that one has brought me back to you guys a lot more, going, okay, I need to monitor this myself and not wait for utilities to put it in or wait for somebody else's system. And a lot of utilities just are never going to put it in.
Right.
The store that I don't have it on, I had a slow leak just on the inside of the meter. Down in the south, I know it's different. I'm from Ontario and Canada originally. Down there, your meters are inside the building. Down in the south, the meters are at the road and you're responsible for everything from that meter. At one point, they drove over my meter with paving equipment when they were paving the road beside it. The city fixed that and everything was good. And then coincidentally, a month or 2 later, there was another leak, which they said didn't have anything to do with it, but either way, I dropped about 10,000 gallons of water slowly into the median, and the grass grew up nice and high, and they just kept cutting around and left this big patch of grass. So I was able to talk them down the water price, or the sewer cost, but I still had to pay the water price. If I had a monitor on that, it would have picked up day one. We got right away that there's a leak there. So that brings me back to you guys going, okay, your system's kind of been proven by somebody else, but now I've got one that I know I need to put it on myself because that cost me $600 or $700 in that one bill. That's one of the situations I'm looking at. Another one is a laundry service that I separated away from my laundromat. So it was combined. I separated into a separate unit and then sold off the laundry service. Right now we have a common water feeds. Because there's only 1 meter, I pay the water bill and they kind of just get use of the water. So we factored in a certain percentage, but if the water bill goes up, I can't charge them anymore because there's no way to meter it. So what I'm looking at is, I talked to you guys before, but actually putting in a sub meter and then being able to monitor that myself. So I can negotiate in that they will pay their own water bill and separate off from the laundromat, so I'm not covering the whole bill. Those are the main ones that I'm looking at. They're both kind of tied together, and then we can get into some of the other products that you guys sell that we might be able to implement as well.
I'm just curious, what would you say the average dollar spent each month for water is at one of your laundromat locations?
The variations on that are huge. I mean, it's just like anything else, what car uses more gas, but I mean, I can be anywhere between $1,500 and $2,200 a month in water bills. That's just, I know we got a good rate here. The city I'm at, the rate's pretty good, but even, last year they went up like 30%. In some other areas, the water bills are a lot higher. In Birmingham, for example, the water bill's not bad, but the sewer, because it had such an issue with that. The sewer surcharge is a separate bill in itself, which I believe might be like 100% on top of your water. It's a completely different charge, and it's all based on water usage. So, you know, if they've got a leak of 10% or a 20% on their sewer bill, it's exponential when you can fix a small problem on it. So one guy I know there, I mean, he was in a situation where he had a 1,400-foot water line. Whenever they built the whole big strip center, they came from one spot and went across the parking lot and hooked up the other building. So he just finally got back with the city and actually hooked up directly in because he had leaks in a 1,400-foot water line.
That's a long distance.
Yeah, how much parking lot do you dig up to try and fix it? So that's kind of a rare example. Find a small leak and reduce our usage by 1 or 2%. Again, added on with the sewer, and it just gets back to how much money we're just throwing away. So I guess we'll dive into that to start with is your water monitoring.
Yeah, let's do that. The reason I'd asked about the budget number there for month is I was trying to gauge if our solution would be economical for you. Say $1,500 a month times 12, that would be $1,800 a year. And you said you were able to reduce it by 20 or 30%.
Yeah, it'll depend. Like I said, that particular one had a leak in it. In a different store, it was a lot more lower usage. But a bigger store, you can have a bigger waste and lose it if you're not monitoring. You're not hearing a leak inside the store, so you're not thinking about it, but it's leaking under the parking lot.
Exactly.
And you never see it. The ground's not wet. You just never know. Especially if you're buying an existing store, which is the situation I had. The water bill never changed. It's not like the leak formed. When I bought the store 5 years ago, that was the bills. And the bill stayed relatively the same. So for 4.5 years, I was dumping water underground.
And are your laundromats, are they 24/7 or?
Yeah.
Theoretically, water could be running all the time.
Yeah. You're going to have cycles. Like even when a washer runs, you could have somebody go in there and start 5 washers. You're going to have a spike of water and then a few minutes of no water and then a spike and then a few minutes of no water. So there's even when it's busy, there's still gaps of theoretically nothing. And you're going to have gaps throughout the night, but there's just nobody there.
Yeah. Okay. Let me share my screen here. Just real quick, a little bit about us. Like I mentioned a few minutes earlier, our headquarters and our manufacturing facilities are based in Canada. I'm in Atlanta. We have people across Canada and US. And we do, as I mentioned, our manufacturing facilities are there. So we do manufacture all of our own hardware. Our sensors are manufactured there, and which is an advantage for us. It gives us tight quality control. Mm-hmm. It helped us during the pandemic when everybody else was suffering with supply chain issues. Ours were more minimal because we do manufacturing everything ourselves. Like I mentioned, over 10,000 buildings. We work a lot with commercial and industrial customers. You can see there just across the cross section of who we work with. We're in a lot of multifamily buildings. Our solutions are kind of our sweet spot for our solutions are in more of concentrated buildings like mid and high-rise buildings is where the economics work the best. But we are, like shopping malls, medical offices, those are kind of standalone buildings as well. So it just depends on what you're trying to either reduce water budgets or mitigate leak damage. It makes sense economically to use our solution.
And there's some laundromats that are a lot bigger than ones I'm running.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've actually was talking to a guy that we're supposed to get back together that has somewhere up in the Northeast. I don't remember now, but he has a chain of like 30 laundromats. He's having the same challenge as you are. So he's looking at probably putting our solution in all 30 locations because some of them aren't attended. No one's there in the evening. No one's going to know about it. And then of course, in a situation like you're mentioning, it may be a leak that's not doing any damage. It could be a leak that's going down the drain. It could be a leak that's underground. So you don't see that.
Yeah. My stores are 24-hour unattended. And I've been there and watched people, they'll just walk through the water and do their laundry and won't think anything about it.
Yeah, I know.
It's like I'm doing my laundry. I don't care what's going on. So
it's
once in a while they may call if there's a leak, but they may not. You may go half the day with water spraying.
Yeah, it's surprising how many people just say, it's not my problem. You and I would see water and be like, man, I hate, you hate to see water get wasted because it's becoming more and more of a valuable resource. And then you hate to see somebody's building get all tore up because of they don't know about it. But so I'll go through our platform, how it works. I'll take a couple minutes and just jump into the dashboard and we'll talk about some of the data you get, how you could use that to see if your building is watertight, detect leaks, understand what the ebbs and flows of the water are in your building, and then you can also use it to manage your consumption. So our solution is a cellular-based solution. It's not Wi-Fi. I mean, we built it obviously to intentionally be cell-based because a few reasons. One, it's more reliable than Wi-Fi. A lot of buildings have poor Wi-Fi, or some buildings don't have Wi-Fi. If your locations all have Wi-Fi,
we do. But if you get a guy with an apartment building, he doesn't want to put Wi-Fi in, just to spend $100 a month on internet just to run your sensors.
We do a lot of big condo buildings, and there's no central Wi-Fi. It's every unit owner has their own Wi-Fi, so you can't really if you're trying to centrally manage the system, like by a property management team is or whatever, you need a centralized Wi-Fi to manage manage an entire system like that. You couldn't do it on every unit owners. It wouldn't work. One of the other reasons we did it is because, we do work with a lot of commercial and industrial customers like Facebook and Amazon, and a lot of the big banks and all have all these in their branches. They prefer not to have IoT devices on their own internal network.
Yeah.
So it takes that right out of the equation. As I mentioned, it is cellular based. You see on the left there is what's called the sensor relay. That is the communication hub of the system, and that is what is cellular based sensor. It has its own embedded SIM card. Once you plug it in, it'll go out and automatically connect to the local cell network. It is the only sensor that requires electrical power. You just plug it into a normal 110 outlet, and like I said, it connects and goes out and establishes a connection with the local cell network. Most of our customers will put these in places like a mechanical room or somewhere where no one's going to bother it or unplug it. Although if it does get unplugged or your building loses power, it does have an automatic 3-day backup battery that kicks in, and the system will alert you that you've either lost power or someone's unplugged the sensor. Then the other companion, what we call companion sensors, are the actual sensors that do the functions that they're designed to do, and they would all communicate back and forth with the sensor relay over a radio protocol that we use, which is LoRa, LORA. It is capable of communicating through pretty much any building material, steel, concrete, wood, whatever it might be. So those sensors will talk back and forth to the sensor relay over that protocol. And then the sensor relay, again, is what goes out and connects to the local cell network to move that data to you, the customer, in a portal that we create for you, as well as send your alerts to you. What's most likely the best fit for you would be the Floyo. That's our water flow sensor, as you can see there. It sits on top of the water meter head. Very easy to install. You just set it on there, make sure that it's snugly against the water meter heads, and then it just straps on. And then it'll read the water flow in real time. So how it works is it has a magnetometer inside of it. It's on mechanical or displacement meters. It's going to read the actual spins of the meter. And for pulse meters, we have a small cable that will plug into the meter and it will read the pulses of the meter. The only meters that these will not work on is some ultrasonics. Only come across those about maybe 5% of the time. Most are the displacement or the pulse meters. So the Floyo will read that water flow in real time. It is battery powered. It takes 2 D-cell batteries. The battery life's usually about 3 to 5 years, and then there's 2 clips on it. You take that housing off and put those 2 D-cell batteries in, and you're good to go. The Floyo is, or all of our sensors for that matter, are IP67 rated, commercial industrial grade, so they can withstand weather, water, dirt, leaves. The Floyo is designed to work in pits. Like you said, us down here in the Southeast, a lot of our meters are in pits. I have customers where their pits get full of water and the Floyo continues to work. So it can get wet, it can get dirty, call it almost bulletproof. Now it'll communicate with the sensor relay up to 500 feet, although I've had some customers reach 1,000 feet, but officially it's 500 feet. So as long as your meter pit is within 500 feet of the building that you have your sensor relay in, you should be good to go. Any questions on that so far?
I don't think so. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
It's pretty simple. Yeah. The other sensors, I don't know if you'd have much of a fit for, the laundromat business. Maybe if you were concerned about leaks in certain areas of the laundromat, you could use the Floody. It's a leak puck. It's battery powered as well. And it's going to communicate with a sensor relay just like the Floyo does. And when water touches it, it's going to send you an immediate alert that you have a water leak at that specific location. And then, obviously you can name these Floodies by where they're located. So, it could be the mechanical room, it could be a bank of washers, washer bank 1, or wherever it's located, you name it. That way you know exactly where the leak is. It does have a peripheral. I don't know if you can see this. If I undo this, it rolls out 8 foot. It's called a flood cable. Plug it into the Floody, and if you wanted to put it around certain mechanicals or extend the reach, 8 foot of the Floody, that as well. So if you're concerned about leak detection inside the laundromat, you could use the Floody.
A lot of these are water heaters are back in mechanical rooms, and again, if it's unattended, there's times some guys are only going in there, once a week or even maybe less than that. So something like that is a good spot. The stores, start to say, sometimes they're great, other times they flood every week. It does at least give you that option of, and again, the more, even in attended stores, a lot of times the water heater might be in an area that your attendants don't go to. So you can, a small drip back there, a small leak, and it's just not an area they go to. So they're just not going to even look at it.
Yeah. So I would say, no, you may want to throw a Floody in there. If it's something that you're concerned about, damage, just, you can put a Floody in there to alert you when that leak occurs. The other Humi that's really more for like our customers and have data centers and labs where they're concerned about humidity. It'll monitor humidity and temperature and it'll alert you based on if you want to set it at certain levels. Hey, when humidity gets above this level or below this level, if you want to be alerted. Now the Floody does do temperature as well. So we have a lot of customers that use it not only for leak detection, but in colder climates to alert them when the temperature gets down to certain levels so they can be on the watch for burst pipes and so forth.
Down south here, we run into that a bit because most of my water heaters are in areas that we don't condition. So it's not heated, it's not cool. If we get into the occasional freeze we do down here, it's possible that the area that they're in is going to be freezing. So those are handy there. We may not use it much, but if you're hovering around that 32 mark, you want to know if it drops down to 29 for too long.
Yeah, I mean, we even here in Atlanta, I bet you guys did too. We had a good bit of I talked to customers. We had a lot of customers get burst pipes here back in, was that in December? I think we had that big cold snap or whatever. And then I have customers where they, like in big condos, people leave their window open and then they'll be gone. Forget they left the window open, and then I've had frozen pipes from that. So the Shutty is just an automatic shut-off valve. So if you did get a leak, you could either automatically, the Floody detects a leak, it could automatically shut it off. Or if you're getting your leak detection from the Floio, it's not automated to that, but you can go into the app on your phone and shut off, turn on the valve. We see those mainly used like in apartments, buildings, and condominium buildings where, again, people are gone, units are, one unit leaks on the 20th floor and it could do millions of dollars damage. So they put these in.
So will that one go on to any size valve?
Only up to 1.5 inches. We should have to market by probably the end of this year 2, 4, and 6-inch valves.
Okay. Well, most laundromats are running 1.5 to 2 inch, ideally, just for the volume of water. When they need it then.
So it'll go up to 1.5 inches now, but like I said, we're coming out with 2, 4, and 6 because we've got we work with construction companies and they want to be able to shut mains off when they're on construction sites, and those are much bigger usually.
One of the cities, and actually the one store that I don't have a meter on, the water main pressure is 150 psi. That's their standing pressure. The pressure reducer we had put in there, the regulator, it wasn't high enough grade. We ended up going up like a mid-grade industrial because with the washers turning on and off, it's not like turning a tap off where it turns off slow. They just shut off. And I got a call one day, the guy said he heard a bang and there's water coming out behind them. We split a 2-inch PVC valve, split it in half, and there was just water gushing everywhere. They ended up flagging down one of the policemen to come in. He calls me going, how do I shut this off? But we'd called everybody we knew within 10 miles of there going, I just need you to go shut a valve off. And finally the police called me going, how do I shut it off? So, it's a situation like that. You might not use it often, but the time you need it, you're never near the valve.
So you could put one of those on main. If your main line is 1.5 inches or less, you could put one of those on there. Or, when we come out with the bigger ones, you could put one on your main line. I forgot when you talked about pressure is we're actually in the testing phase right now, coming out with a product that will monitor your water pressure too, because we have a lot of requests for that from, the mid high-rise buildings. They're always trying to figure out, the water pressure in the lines. If they can understand that, they can probably avoid some of the leaks they have. That's probably going to be out the Q3 of this year. I don't know if that would be something that would help laundromat space, maybe.
Yeah, it varies. I mean, those laundromats are just getting more and more technical. They were just something you'd let it go. But like I said, the more the monitoring, the control, the understanding, it's helping you understand if you set it up and you're wondering why. Because with the washing machines, the timer might say 26 minutes, but the fill time isn't included. So if your pressure goes down and you're not getting enough volume through, pressure and volume through the pipe, then that may change from a 26-minute cycle to a 36 or 40, 45. I had one that, because it was such a small, low pressure feed going into the store, it was almost 50 minutes to run a cycle. Well, that means your volume of people going through gets cut in half. So a lot more of this monitoring, like I said, as it goes on, we'll get more and more in there so they can understand now that it's up and running. What's my restriction here? What's causing, why am I not getting the volume through the store I need to? Why are people taking so long?
No, exactly. I mean, I just rolled out a big car wash chain that is using our flow monitoring, but they are going to be interested in that pressure monitoring as well, because just for this reason you mentioned is understanding, what may be pulling some of that water pressure away, or how can they make adjustments in their equipment and so forth based on that, and just tweaking some of the inefficiencies they have. So it's very interesting.
If you're downstream from a major industry, they may open valves, lose all your pressure, and so at certain times of the day, all of a sudden you're going, why is my equipment just not working? It's timing out because it's not filling up fast enough, and you've got really no way to figure that out by just looking at it. Yeah.
That's definitely important in the car wash space and many others like yours. So makes sense. Any questions about the sensors themselves? One thing I forgot to mention is on the Floio, the platform platform does have artificial intelligence in, so it's going to learn the water signatures, what we call it, of that building. So the daily ups and downs of your water patterns, and then compare that against the actual so that it can detect leaks, potential leaks. But I'll show that to you. I'm actually going to go ahead and jump into the portal and show you an example of that now. So here is the dashboard. Let's say you had multiple laundromats. They'd all be listed here under your properties. This is a dashboard we use because we don't like to show customer data. So we have these set up at different buildings that we can use for testing. So this one here, for instance, is detecting a leak, and that is based on a Flowio. You can see here, you go into that particular building's property page, it's colored red, so that's showing that there is a leak. You would also be getting an alert. It could be an email, phone call, text message, push notification in the app as well. And we do have the app available on both Android and iPhones. You'd have it available for whatever type of phone you have. So you could just drill down to see the data. Here's what you get on your water flow page. It'll pop up a billing summary. So if you want to, this may or may not be useful data to you, but based on your current usage, it will extrapolate your projected monthly cost, or you can do it in gallons as well, or whatever metric you're using, liters. If you have the rate, you can plug that into the dashboard and it'll automatically calculate your dollars as well. Here's the primary data you would probably use from a water flows perspective. As you look at this, you can see the blue background is what the system has learned to be your typical water flow in that building. This is a period of a day, 24-hour period. You can go to weekly, monthly, annually. Within those, you can get the data from an hourly perspective or all the way down to the minute. The blue bars are what's actual, and then the red part of the bar is the amount of water it's determining to be a leak. So you can see there it's gone outside what you typically see as your actual. Now you can set the thresholds to be alerted, at what level you want to. So if you want to be alerted when it goes outside of a certain, percentage, you could have it alert you on that. The other data you'll get, we'll come back to that graph in just a minute, but I just wanted to go ahead and run down this page. Some of it might be useful in your business, some might not be. Here it's going to do a leak forecast. So if you didn't change anything or fix the leak or respond to it, it's going to project out the current leak rate, what the amount would be and the dollar amount would be on that leak.
And this stuff helps you, like I said, you get a price from a plumber. Like mine, it costs $4,000 to replace the pipe, but I dropped 200 and change a month. Well, okay. And this kind of gives you that idea ahead of time, going, here's how quick your recovery time is.
Exactly. It'll give you percent on time. So the percent of time water is running in your building. So for instance, in this particular case, it's 100% because there is a leak. Like you had mentioned in your laundromat, there should be small periods of time when there's no water running. So unless there's a leak, it shouldn't hit 100%. If it does, you'll know that there's something going on in your building.
I'd love it if it was running water 24 hours a day, but there is times at 3 a.m. where people just don't do laundry sometimes.
Yeah. This may or may not be useful. It's a weekly heat map on water usage. A lot of our customers that use this will use it to first learn what their water patterns are, and then be able to ask questions like, Thursday afternoon at 5 p.m., why do we always use, a lot more water than we do, during these hours? You may already know the answers to that, but some buildings, they don't know. They're like, and so it'll point them to look at certain things, certain mechanicals, or, maybe certain things are happening that shouldn't be in the building. So it just gives you an understanding of your 24/7 water, when and what volumes it's being used at. You can make some adjustments based on that. This is really more for multifamily. This compares your water to the number of occupants that would normally generate that water. So a lot of our multifamily buildings, like apartment buildings and condos, will use this to just compare for comparative purposes. Maybe someday, if we have a lot of laundromat customers, we could build a dashboard, maybe have something type of data that would be meaningful to the laundromat.
There's a lot of laundromats have a payment system, which will kind of give you some of this. You can drill down a bit to time of day, but that varies depending on systems. But when you get into this, when you look at that heat map, you'll see it that you always estimate those times of days of the weeks that you're busier. But when you start looking at this, some areas may surprise you that, hey, I didn't realize it was that busy Wednesday afternoon. Why Wednesday afternoon? Or, and then you start looking and find out that there's the same 10 people all show up and do their laundry at the same time, because that's when they normally do it together. In other ways, it helps you say, okay, I'm really busy at this time. How can I move some customers to another part of the day? How can I get them to Wednesday morning and get them away from Saturday when it's really busy for everybody? So, it kind of lets you just target, say, hey, like if you're flexible, why not come Wednesday morning when we're not as busy?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you get into this with like a year, if you click over to the year there and it gives you a bigger scale, it really lets you understand graphs too as to how you compared to last year and how you compared to last month. Because water you're using, if it's not leaking, you're using a pretty consistent amount based on how many machines you're running. That lets you really look at month to month. Hey, my usage went up, my usage went down. So it's like any other data. You may not use much with it, but if you want to go back and look at something historically, it really helps to have it there to go, my revenue seems to be down, but I've increased my prices. So you can go back and look at your water usage and say, well, when you increased your prices, your water usage went down. So how did the additional income, help for the amount of people that I'm not pushing through there anymore? So
that's very good points. And that's why, a lot of our customers are in a lot of different businesses and some will be able to use this data a lot, some maybe not, some of these data points. But I know the car wash companies that we work with use this where you can kind of figure those trends out and everything.
Yeah. And they're going, how do I put that sign out in the road on Tuesday afternoon saying the buck off today because I'm not doing much on Tuesday? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. What I want to do is real quickly let's go back to the property page. I want to get an example where there's not a leak, show how you can use it when you first install something like this to benchmark your building. Go down here. Here's one. And so here's the data. So what you could do like this, especially the situation where you mentioned when you bought the building, there was probably a leak, but you didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And it took you, a few years to determine there was a leak.
The bill wasn't extreme for what it was.
Yeah.
It didn't stand out. So, the percentage seemed to be okay. But
exactly. So this is where you could use this data. So if you went down, let's say you take a day and you can go all the way down to the minute. In your business, you could probably look across there when you first install this and say, all right, is there any white space in there? If it's all blue, then water's running constantly. There's got to be something wrong because like you said, especially if you look at multiple days, like you said, there could be an aberration here where maybe one day you had people come in, especially during the hours between like 12 midnight and 5 a.m. You're probably going to likely to have some spot sometimes where there's no water use. So that's a way where you could say, all right, if there is white space there, then you benchmark your property and say, I don't think I'm having any issues because the water is not running constantly. And that's
as I mentioned, even on a 30-minute cycle, the actual water flow into it may only be 7 or 8 minutes of that because you've got a lot. 8 minutes at the end is just a spin cycle. So it's just the time it takes to fill for a wash of rinses. So like I said, even on a normal day, you're going to end up with those spikes and then right back to zero again.
And that's where the granularity of getting down, being able to go down to the minute level is to be able to find those times when there isn't water, or maybe not so much in your business, but like a lot of big buildings and like apartments, condos, big commercial office buildings, they can also look at when does water spike? Is it spiking? Let's say an apartment building, if it's spiking every 2 or 3 minutes, that means maybe we have a lot of toilets that need to be retrofitted. They're leaking, or we have an irrigation system that's leaking, or maybe our mechanicals are running more than they should be and pulling more water than they should be. So you can use this data for a lot of those different diagnoses. You can't, just looking at a water bill. That's really pretty much it on the water flow. I mean, any questions on that or?
No, I mean, it's looks pretty self-explanatory and it's like any data. I mean, it may be stuff that you put in there and you don't ever look at it, but when you need to look at it, you want to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that idea is you can put it in and 2 hours later, look back to find it. If you've got times of, if it's just constant usage and you're looking in the store going, there's nobody here. It's telling you right away. You're not waiting for it to analyze it. You can tell right away where you're at. Laundromat guys are ones where, we play going, okay, there's nobody here right now. I'm going to run this washing machine and find out how much water that one takes, that specific machine, because that, that data is hard to find too, right? So,
and you could use this per minute chart to do that. So just a little bit more about the dashboard. There's a compare tab where if, let's say you did have 10 or 20 laundromats, you could have each laundromat listed here and then compare your metrics against each other. And of course, it's going to tell you if there's any events in that page. But you'd probably manage your events more from the events page where it lists any events you've had. It also has the ability to put notes in. So when you have an event, you can go in there and put notes in, hey, this is why this happened, why we had a leak because XYZ happened. And so when you've at the end of the year, hey, I've had events in these locations, I know what mostly cost them, but if you have 100 locations, it's good to have that, be able to have reports that you can pull and say, wow, what's caused all these leaks? And is there something we can point to?
And even here, like kind of thinking through there, I referenced back initially about the water leak I had underground. We can have a valve stick open in a washing machine, and because the drain valve's open at the bottom, it's just constantly running water through. It may not be a lot, but it's just constantly running. If you're in a busy store, that could be happening all the time. You've got a cold water valve that's got a bit of grain of sand in there, and it's just constantly letting water feed in. It doesn't seem much, but like I said, it all adds up. And if you got something on here that you can drill down to, like I said, that minute by minute and look at it and say, okay. And like I said, there's guys, once this is hooked up, every day I'll say, okay, I'm going to check it and see what's going on. Because that'll be part of their, I think, go in there and look at it and go, okay, I've got 10 stores. Where do I need to send my maintenance guys? Well, this one here is leaking a bit of water. It's not a lot. It's probably not a toilet stuck. It's probably not a pipe split, but it's not at zero. So somewhere in there, there's a valve leaking. And again, it doesn't have to be a lot, but it's moving water and it's costing you money.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the tab is the sensors tab. That's where you'd manage your sensors from. So, it's going to tell you what the battery power is, and it's going to alert you when to get down about 10%. So, you know when to change your batteries. It's going to let you know that, the signal's good. It's reporting like it should be. So in other words, it's not only going to get alerts for, potential water leaks or excessive water, but also, if your sensors for some reason, let's say somebody moves one, and like I had mentioned earlier about unplugging it, it'll send you an alert something's going on with that.
Yeah. And there's nothing like going to check something, finding your battery died 4 months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of stuff out there, like whether it's, different sensors on cards we put on, the iPhone sensors stuff, that the battery dies and it's just not working. You need it.
Yeah. So, no, you'll know it. It'll send you an alert too. If the battery does die, it'll send you an alert, but it'll also send you an alert when it gets down to about 10% life. So which usually equates to a couple months. Battery life in these is usually about between 3 and 5 years. That's really pretty much it. Any questions? Or
I think that's it a lot for the. So the one there, like I was looking at submetering. I think I got the one message from you guys saying like a T10 meter is kind of your preferred one.
Yeah, we usually just recommend that. It's relatively inexpensive. Our flow monitoring works on that Neptune T10. I mean, but you can use any that are mechanical or pulse. We just always get people asking us, hey, what would you use? We just say Neptune T10.
Yeah, because like I said, in my example, I'm looking to separate. I've got one pipe I'm looking to separate and submeter, and I know a lot of other guys, they've got dedicated areas where their wash dry folds done and stuff like that. And they may consider putting something like that, and to really understand the cost of what that. It's great to say we add this service and we're making more money, but how much is that really costing you to run it? How can you break down what you're spending on that particular one? So other ones you're saying, I think one of the emails we got from you guys was, if you're not sure if it'll work on the meter you got from the utilities, send you a picture and you guys can sit.
Yeah, you just send us.
Don't just buy it and see if it'll work.
We just really need to know the model and the make and the model of the meter, but we usually just tell everyone, just take your phone, take a picture of it. Usually take a picture of the face, and if you can, take a picture of the top of the lid, because some models, they'll have the model name or number on top of the lid if it has a lid on it. I did want to share with you at least our MSRP pricing so that you and anyone who else sees this.
It's one there is the thing with pricing, especially on a video like this. If somebody's looking at it 2 years from now, the pricing may throw them off because
that's true.
It's older stuff. So I'll leave that up to you guys. We can email you or whatever, get that way just to find it if it works. And like I said, if somebody's looking at this 5 years from now, they're going to go, wow, man, the price went up. I mean, I was hoping to get it for X amount.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I was forgetting that you're going to post this and somebody might see it a year or two from now. So
the one other thing, and we covered a lot of the water stuff, the HVAC things you had. Is that something that's available to the regular guy? I mean, I know guys laundromat guys, we cover, some guys hire it all their maintenance. The guys who do a lot of it themselves, they're doing it all. I mean, they're fixing plumbing. I know a guy who got an HVAC license just so he could put his own in because he's tired of hiring guys to come and service his stuff. I've had a horrible service with my HVAC guys. They just didn't show up to service it. We set up a contract. It wasn't a written contract, but here's when it needs to be done. They just didn't show up and service it for a year and had to replace the unit. I know you guys got some sensors on that.
We have a separate team that sells just those, but I can tell you it is a remote sensor that attaches to an HVAC system. I think its limit is it's mainly light commercial and residential. We are trying to develop a commercial solution, and it does remote diagnostics on your HVAC system. Kind of the same thought process that with the water, it's giving you real data in real time, so that if there's an issue, you can hopefully catch it early and reduce truck rolls, those kind of things.
In our situation, I mean, especially in the South, HVAC is a big expense. It's a big chunk to it. I mean, it's our main power user. We don't use a lot of power running washing machines now. They're all VFD driven. I mean, mean, you can have an 8-load washing machine that has a 12 amp rating. It's not a heavy power draw. So the HVAC is a heavy power draw. Sometimes you got 3 or 4 units in a store, and the doors constantly open in the dryers. They get a lot of work, and being able to monitor that yourself, and then at least be able to get the service guy in going, hey, I know we do this every so often, but are these numbers okay? That's something, like I said, just make people aware of it. You guys have that if they want to dig into it a bit more, or maybe I can get on a call with those guys later on and a bit more detail on it, find out how it ties into the system as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much for listening to Laundromat How To, the podcast with your host, Ken Barrett. For notes from today's show, news, tips, and access to this and past episodes, stay up to date at www.laundromathowto.com. We'll see you next time.